How we doing, guys? Pretty good. Just glad this weather waited until we were done with recruiting, huh? We were fortunate again. I mean, that's another year of just great weather in here. Great weather on these weekends. But let me see where I should start. First of all, we're really excited up here. And I'm not someone. I've been around it enough that I've been to enough recruiting signing days, and everybody talks about their class is this and their class was ranked here, and we beat this team on this guy. I'm not about all that. But with that said, I can't imagine that it could have gone much better than it went. I think there's a couple reasons for that. I think, honestly, having those two open dates during the season really helped us, particularly from the junior college end of it. Being able to get out and really evaluate early, kind of get ahead of the pack, particularly with the junior college kids. We put so much emphasis in that during the season. So we got off to a quick start with that. I think the second thing, really the continuity of the staff really helps. Obviously, we did have two changes on the staff. Jeff Mills, I made a decision to make that change, and then Coleman Hutzler went to the University of Florida. What a tremendous opportunity. But we had two staff changes, but to be able to get Barry Sachs and Chuck McMillan in here, over the dead period and have them ready to go out on the road when the flurry really hit there those last 3 weeks was critical. So we had the staff intact really the whole way. And I think you could feel the addition of those two coaches. I think it was a joint effort, a team effort across the board. But I'm really excited. I'm really excited about this class. You have to have a plan. You guys have all been through this from the beginning with us. It's no question that we need to get more maturity. We needed more size. Obviously, that starts with some older players. I think this was the year, first of all, because we were ahead of it in the junior college piece from an evaluation standpoint, to take a few more junior college players. Also, we have we were able to redshirt 21 players last year. We have a good nucleus of young players where the program is, from a foundation standpoint, established a little bit. So I think this third class to take 11 junior college players, that's a lot, but I think it's a little bit misleading. Several of these junior college players have 3 years. For instance, I think a big thing in this class, we have 6 players that are already here, which is unheard of. First of all, because our roster numbers were so low in August, as we continue to build this, we were able to bring in 6 players, because we were only at 79 or something on scholarship. But all 6 of those players that we brought in at mid-semester were qualifiers out of high school, which says something. 2 of the 6 players that are in here right now are high school kids. Bijan Parker has 5 years to play for. Garrett Hughes has 5 years to play for. And that's, we don't get many recruits the profile of a Garrett Hughes, to be quite honest. That's kind of a unique situation. He signed with he signed with Cal out of high school. Really, there was a coach at Cal named Todd Howard that I coached at Texas A&M. Was an outside linebacker for me, but he was on the previous staff with at Cal. And then Barry Sachs coached the defensive line last year at Cal. And Garrett was set to enroll at mid-semester at Cal. And we were able to get in there and get him here in Albuquerque, and he has 5 years to play for. We're very, very excited to have him. So 6 mid-year guys. 2 of those guys are high school. One of them, Nick Lehman, is a three-year player as a tight end, and we have the 3 junior college players. You kind of look at it, how it's broken down. We signed 6 defensive linemen, which we had to do. We have to do that. We have to build this thing, from the inside out. 3 of those defensive linemen are legitimate 300-pound guys. Those heights and weights you see, that isn't recruiting service heights and weights. Those are Ben Hilgart's heights and weights, and we get on him a little bit because he's he's ridiculous. You know, we swear guys are taller than what they are there. But he's pretty stubborn, and he does the whole NFL thing the way they do it. So those are as accurate as it can get. You know, Cole Juarez, you know, I guess, you know, if you, and it's always difficult, you know, but the most highly recruited guys, I guess you guys are always interested in that, and you follow it pretty closely. Garrett Hughes, without a doubt, if people would have known he was back on the market, would have been all Pac-12 schools. You know, we were very fortunate, very fortunate. Cole Juarez, the inside defensive lineman from Riverside, Arizona State. He canceled the Arizona State visit. He was offered, and Texas Tech was there until the very end with an offer, not to mention some other people. But it really came down to Texas Tech, Arizona State. So right off the bat there, you have two defensive linemen that legitimately were highly recruited. You know, how all that shakes out, I don't know. You know, one of the highest recruited kids we had in my first class is no longer here, hasn't played it down here. But it's a little different your third year in. You know, through the evaluation process, I think you have a little more better way of evaluating. You're a little bit more sure about guys. But I guess the third one, certainly from just who was recruited the highest, Juwan Lawson, the quarterback from Petaluma, really could have gone just about anywhere. Really had a connection here. We saw him twice during both open dates. We were up there. Unfortunately, on the second one of those, and we also saw him, I guess, before the Fresno State game. But you know, Juwan's really a unique guy, just a leader. His dad's the quarterback coach at the high school. Again, could have gone just about anywhere. I think the fourth guy in that mix would be Aaron Jenkins from Dallas. You know, originally committed to Rice. Had a Texas Tech offer right at the end. Could have been recruited by a lot of people. I think Derek Wareham did an unbelievable job with Aaron Jenkins. There's a lot of loyalty there. Aaron Jenkins jumped in with us and could have had a lot of other opportunities. And I think, you know, also Juwan Jones from Chandler was a guy that was recruited heavily, really shut it down pretty early, came in here the first week of December and really liked it. Again, you know, just to give you guys an idea, I'd say those five guys as far as just true opportunities across the board. But this is a class where we had to beat more people than any class since I've been here. And it should be that. You know, we can beat some people now on kids. And that's exciting. So 6 defensive linemen. 3 of those guys are legitimate 300-pound guys. Cole Juarez, Taylor Timmons, and Jack Ziltz. And then we have Garrett Hughes, Kenny Okonkwo, and Desmond Branch, more the end kind of guys. Although Garrett Hughes is 280 pounds right now. 4 DBs, and I think we were figuring it up. The average height is right at about 6'1". You take Juwan Jones, Daniel Henry, Lee Crosby, Bijan Parker. Lee Crosby was a big get for us right here at the end. You know, a mature corner that we really liked. You know, we had him at the very top. So we had 4 DBs. Height was a premium. And then the linebacker position, you know, 2 junior college players, Steve Galvin and then Cameron Bean. On offense, you know, the 2 quarterbacks. I think we're still in a position where we need to go get 2 quarterbacks. Juwan Lawson, you know, was highly recruited. Patrick Reed, originally committed to Texas State. We've watched him forever, from Silsbee, Texas. My car dealer when I was at Texas A&M for 9 years, Rowena Caraway, is in Silsbee, Texas. You know, so we've watched him a long time. Patrick Reed's a good athlete, you know, good basketball player, really fit into our system. I think critical for us, 2 tight ends. We went to junior college route on 2 tight ends. Nick Lehman's a 3-for-3 tight end, more of a blocker, big physical guy. He's here now. Emmanuel Simpson, more of the cruiser, athletic, great-looking kid. He's at Pima Community College. You know, 2 running backs, Tyrone Owens, Jakari Johnson. Jakari Johnson's kind of a slot or tailback, great hands, athletic. We can plug him in a lot of places. Tyrone Owens is more of a David Anaya kind of tough blocker. I think he'll do the dirty work for us. He'll block. He's strong, power lifter. 4 wide receivers, Garrison Mitchell, Matt Corliss, a guy we were, to go into St. Louis. He's good friends with Donnie White. Donnie White's brother plays at his high school, different high school than Donnie played at, but they're really good friends. He was recruited early by everyone. Had a sprained ankle his senior year. Really a quality receiver. We were holding our breath with Corliss. And then offensive line. If there's a position where we've been able to kind of build the numbers back up, that would be the offensive line. We needed a center. We took Eden Mahina. His brother plays tight end at BYU. Eden is an older guy. He served a 2-year mission in Panama. He's married. Tough guy. In fact, we watched him play in a game. Eden Mahina was the center and Cole Juarez was the nose guard when the 2 junior colleges played. And that's a pretty good matchup. And he's good shotgun snap, which you just don't take for granted. And then I mentioned Aaron Jenkins, who I think was a big-time recruit for us. But we only took 2 offensive linemen. Took 14 on offense, 14 on defense, 12 on offense. I think it's a heck of a class. I can't wait. I think it'll bring instant maturity, instant size to our football team, and that's something that we've surely missed. Coaches worked their butt off, unselfish. We grinded it. I'll give you an example. Last week, I left here Monday morning, went to Phoenix, went into Salt Lake. In Salt Lake, we headed south. It was Barry Saxon Cause. We drove 2 hours and 45 minutes down to Snow, Ephraim College. I saw Lee Crosby, 2-hour, 45-minute drive. This after being in Phoenix and getting into Salt Lake at about 1. Then we drove across the mountains, clear out to the northeast corner of Utah to see Cole Juarez. That was a 3-hour drive. So we went 2:45 down to Snow. Now there's 3 of us in a big white Suburban driving down there. Not sure what their perception of what they thought we were coming down there, but 3 of us went down to Ephraim 2:45, see Lee. Then we drive 3 hours to Cole Juarez's house. Cole Juarez's mom, Kelly, has this big meal. We get out of there at 10 o'clock at night. We've got 3-hour drive back to Salt Lake, to the airport. So we went 2:45 driving, 3 to Cole's, and then 3 back to the airport. So Monday it was Phoenix, the state of Utah. Tuesday I was in Oakland and San Francisco. Wednesday I was in Chicago and St. Louis. I got in both Ziltz's and Corliss. Thursday I was in Dallas, Oklahoma City, back to Dallas. Friday I came back and I saw the 6 high schools on the east side of the river here in town. And then we had 25 junior college, or 25 New Mexico kids in Saturday. That I think you'll see the benefit of that when the walk-on piece of it comes out. But I'm not saying that to say, boy, look how hard, or how, that's what you do. And more than that, it was Barry Sachs that drove that whole way in Utah. But we got Lee Crosby and we got Cole Juarez, and it paid off. But it takes money to do that. It takes support of the university to do that. And another example, Garrett Hughes. Garrett Hughes comes in here on his weekend visit. This is the first week in January. The next day, Scott Baumgardner, Barry Sachs, and myself are in his home, 3 of us. I also mentioned on that Lee Crosby, when we landed in Salt Lake, when I landed in Salt Lake, Chuck McMillan was with us as well. And Chuck McMillan went to see Lee's dad, who lives in Salt Lake. And the 3 of us, Kaz, myself, and Barry, drove down to Ephraim, saw Lee, and then Chuck McMillan came in after us and spent the evening down there with Lee. And then we left, and the 3 of us went to have dinner with Cole and back. But just to give you an example of how we pounced when it was time to pounce. and which is a big part of the recruiting here at New Mexico, because your best laid plans sometimes fall apart depending on who comes in there at the end. And we were able to hold that off. But the reason I'm telling you this, it takes a commitment, and I don't take for granted. Not one time was I told, listen, we're spending too much money on recruiting, or not one time was I told, listen, we better be careful. We used 53 visits. We had 53 players come in here on official visits. We signed 26. Now, we didn't offer all 53 of those kids, but we had a contingency plan, and it takes support to do that, and I don't take it for granted. The other thing I'd say, I don't mean to keep going, but you know, I had a chance too. I drove down to Nemi, and I'll tell you, it's a beautiful state. It really is, man. It was early in the morning. That sun was coming up. There's not a whole lot of high schools or football players between here and Nemi, at least not the route I took. But it was a beautiful drive, and spent the day down there. And then, in fact, on the way back, you know, it was a couple days after that disaster at the middle school or grade school down there, and that school sits right off the highway, and I could see all those satellite and trucks and things like that. And then, you know, the way these rules are set up now, you don't get out as much as you used to. You know, I get so many days. I get one time I can see each one of these kids. And for the head coach, it's cut back into a pretty condensed time frame. But I was able to take a Friday and see 6 or 7 schools on the west side of Albuquerque. And I took the last Friday to see the 6 or 7 schools on the east side of Albuquerque. And I really enjoyed getting in these high schools and meeting these principals, meeting the coaches. There's some, you know, Trisco Heritage. I had no idea that school was that big, that facility was that nice. You know, St. Pius, you know, going to Valley. There's some really unique places. You know, Sandia, El Dorado, Del Norte. You know, it sits right there. It looks like, you wonder where the kids come from. It's kind of in a residential area right there. But a lot of flavor, you know, a lot of history. I think we signed 4 kids if you count Taylor Timmons from Nemi. Would have signed 5 if academics would have been in order, to be quite honest. Academics plays a big role. Academics plays a big role, and that's something that, you know, with guidance counselors, with coaches here in this state, it's only going to get higher. It's only going to raise the level now with the NCAA, and that's something we're going to, you know, try to reach out and provide some seminars in that area. So, anyhow, I've rambled on, but I'm really excited about this class. And I know I've never heard a coach ever say he wasn't excited about his class, but this is pretty legit right here.
Coach, how important was it to keep the local kids home?
I think very important. You know, this past weekend, you know, we had breakfast on Saturday morning, and the coaches were kind of sitting back, and Cameron Bean and Desmond Branch were up there at the buffet getting breakfast. And we said, listen, we've had 5 or 6 official weekends. We haven't had 2 better-looking prospects than Cameron Bean or Desmond Branch. So I think it is important. You know, we all know the challenge. You know, when the time comes where there's a local recruit that's recruited by everybody in this country, no different than if there's a great student here in Albuquerque and the Ivy League schools and all the prestigious schools around the country come in. We know what the challenge is to keep them here. But put it this way, we went after 3 and we offered 3 and we signed 3. And that's important.
Bob, the JUCO kids have a lot to do this, but the California recruits outnumber the Texas recruits 2-1. Did Coach Baumgartner and Coach Sachs, did they have a lot to do with that?
Rick, you hit the nail on the head. I think the junior college thing skews that a little bit. The great thing about California junior college is those kids have grades. And I don't mean to, you know, I mean, they seem to be more qualifiers out of high school that say, listen, I'm going to go to junior college and up the ante and maybe have more offers than I have now. And that seems to work for us. So, yeah, the junior college piece, but Scott Baumgartner and Barry Sachs, I was just joking, you know, just yesterday, man, they're little Chris Alt clones. You know, I was standing. We were over going to see Garrett Hughes, and they're both the same size. I'm talking about Sachs and Baumgartner. They both had khaki pants on. Both had their white New Mexico shirts on, and they're both grinders. And they both recruited California forever for Chris Alton. Signed a majority. Everyone will tell you they signed a majority of those players at Nevada. So I think it's a combination of those two things. Both those guys have tremendous ties in California. And we spent more time because we did go a higher percentage of junior college.
How much more different are you received this time around than, say, the last year and the year before?
You know, I think, you know, and I'll start with this, you know, again. I know sometimes people tell you what you want to hear, but like going in these Albuquerque high schools, I was really excited that people, I think, appreciate how we're doing it and kind of see how we're doing it and understand where we're headed. You know, I felt that whether it was from a principal, you know, from security guards in the high school, I really did, you know, and I'm not naive. I know they're not going to tell me if they don't like the way we're doing it, but I think we have some credibility. You know, there's no question we got hammered at the end of the year with the Fresno game in particular. But I think we have credibility. And just like Matt Corliss coming from St. Louis, he's not coming here unless Donnie White comes out here and loves it here and sees the direction of the program. And I think you're going to see more and more of that. So, yeah, we're accepted. You know, we need to win. I mean, the next piece of this is winning. We need to win. And now we'll get this thing rolling. But I think really good. You know, the players did an incredible job in the program for us, selling the program and the continuity of the coaching staff. And then, you know, we've got really good facilities. Our facilities, it's amazing. It's amazing how every kid that comes in here says, man, this is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I'm not sure what the perception, I've talked about this before. I mean, what's the perception of New Mexico? Like, I never, you know, every guy says, I can't believe how nice it is. I thought it was going to be this. It's amazing to me, you know, and then we fight that a little bit. I mean, we got to grind it in recruiting now. There's no, you know, we came down to us in Wyoming right here today with Lee Crosby. And I'm looking at that 5-day forecast in Laramie, and I'm saying, what are we doing? But I mean, it's a battle now on every kid. But as we win, it'll get better. It'll get better.
Coach, with the emphasis on defense this year, especially these JCs coming in, is that going to give you that edge next year so we can get over the hump on defense? Because obviously you went after an average height of 6'1" at defensive back to cover those big receivers that we mismatched so many times. So you think this will give us the edge to go for 4 to 6 wins?
I hope, man. I hope. I just want to be able to stop someone. I mean, we can't. I can't. It's hard. It's been hard. And I mean, it's obvious what we're doing with size. We have to be able to match up. You guys know that. So who knows? You know, I mean, I feel really good about this. We evaluated it hard. As always, you have some guys that have some academic things they have to do to get qualified, although we have very few. But, you know, it's a good start. I hope so. That's why we went after 14 defensive players, and a lot of them are older guys. We need the help.
Regarding the junior college players and the fact that there are 11 on here, and you had said previously, you know, our sweet spot with junior college players might be 5 to 8. Is it because that 4 of them are 3-year guys? Is that why you're able to do that a little bit?
Yeah, that, Robert, and I'll tell you something. I cannot turn away a defensive lineman. I cannot. I mean, I've been in this long enough to say, you know what? I didn't want to take, honestly, 6 defensive linemen. But when I got a kid like Taylor Timmons down there at NIMI that's 300 pounds, and he wants to come, I'll abandon the plan a little bit to take defensive linemen because you just can't find them. And I don't, you know, Cole Juarez, for us to get Cole Juarez, honestly, is a lick for us. And I just, we were able, and Garrett Hughes kind of fell into our lap, you know. Now, we work like heck, but that's a different situation. But I'm going to take those defensive linemen every time. Yeah.
To see who all's recruiting Juwan Lawson and not say, well, maybe this is not a good investment for us to invest time and money.
Yeah.
Then go out and get him. Does that say something about where you are?
Yeah, and that's the decision you have to make. You know, when we first watched Juwan Lawson last spring, Rick, you know, at that time it was Arizona. His sister goes to the University of Arizona. It was Cal, Boston College. He went in the summer and visited Boston College. I didn't think we could get him. But we had the 2 open dates, and he really, really, really has a passion to be a quarterback. And some people played with, well, if you're not a quarterback, I know you can be a safety. And we were just quarterback, and he sees himself fitting in our system. So we blew it out on that one. Where normally we probably wouldn't have invested that much because I didn't think we could get him at the end. But we had a connection there. We had Bob the Best watched him practice. Scott Baumgartner watched him practice. You know, we were around that place a lot. I guess that's what you're asking. He's the prototype of he's the profile of a guy that you may not spend a lot of money and keep trying to recruit because you don't think you're going to get him because of who else is recruiting him. But we had a tie, you know, particularly because of our scheme of offense. Yeah.
Coach, can you talk about your overall roster now, given this class?
You know, I think it's built back up. You know, we will get to 85. You know, we have 3 players, the twins, that are no longer on our roster, Rashad and Vershad. In fact, I just got a text from Rashad last night. You know, I think they're going to end up going to junior college. Jerron Bourne is no longer on our roster. One other player, Jalen Judkins, is still on our roster, and his situation's unique. He's going to take a semester off and be at home this spring for some really personal reasons. He's fine shape academically. It's nothing to do with anything other than he needs to be home this semester. But we have a full roster. You know, we're getting to where we have a full roster. You know, that day of using that card or using that safety net's over, and it's taken us 3 years to get to it. You know, so. You know, the quarterback position's a great example. You know, we've gone from 2 scholarship quarterbacks when we got here, really BR and Cole, to what do we have, 6 quarterbacks now? You know, Cole, Clayton Mitchum, the 2 freshmen that are here, now our new 2 freshmen coming in. And that's pretty much, you know, that's pretty much back to a full roster. You know, it's not numbers of guys now, it's developing guys and getting better as a team.
How do you feel to win some of these, you know, matches against other schools?
Yeah, it's competitive. It really does, you know. I mean, it's what you missed about this when you weren't doing it. That's the great thing about it, you know. It's not just those 13 games or 12 games. I mean, it's competitive. I mean, we were, you know, you take a kid like Lee Crosby, who kind of got locked down the last couple days, and you can't get to him, and you can't get to the mom, and you can't get to the dad, and you know, it's competitive. It really is, and it's good. I mean, you can, and you see a lot about your staff. You know, the guys that are really competitive, because it's kind of the same thing.
I believe Texas State recruited Patrick Reed as an athlete. That's what's online, and we don't
Yeah.
know for sure whether that's true or not. But
Yeah.
You've got 7 quarterbacks, including McCown, I guess.
Right.
I guess. Are all of them going to get a shot?
He definitely will. Patrick Reed, I'm surprised because I know they really wanted him as a quarterback. You know, that may have been the word from the outside, but no, he's a quarterback. He can throw it. He's a taller guy. Yeah, all those guys legitimately have a shot at quarterback. We just, you know, you see what we do on offense. You see how we need numbers. But more than that, Rick, you know that you need to find the guy. You know, Seattle Seahawks, as good as they are, Russell Wilson has turned into the guy. You know, you got to, in this profession, you know, you got, in this game, you got to find that quarterback. And, you know, hopefully out of that, all those numbers, one guy will emerge as just the guy. So they all have a shot, yeah.
Coach, how do you convince a kid to come here if you're going to have 6 quarterbacks coming in here? How do you talk them into coming?
I'll tell you, it's not as big an issue. It really isn't. You know, for the guy that's confident, and Patrick Reed is that, and Juwan Lawson, it really doesn't come up as much as you think. You know, I'm sure if we had a quarterback sitting here that was a freshman starter that just blew it up this year, that might be a little bit different. But in our situation, it never really, these kids are pretty confident, you know, the good ones in their ability. And it really is not. It's a great question, but it's not as big of an issue as you would think it would be. Yeah. One other piece, you know, we've got a plan for a punter. We've got a plan for a kicker. And, you know, I'm going to wait here. I want to get through the signing date first, but we've got a plan for both those things because that's critical. We lose really a good punter, as you know, in Ben Scare.
Coach, kind of a question for our affiliates, but UTEP released or found out that they're going to be playing the Lobos this year as their season opener. Is there general comments on UTEP?
Yeah, I think we were their season opener last year as well. So, yeah, I think that's a natural rivalry. You know, you look at that corridor of UNM, New Mexico State, and UTEP, and I know they've got a lot of fans that travel well, so hopefully we'll have a full stadium out here.